Yeah, first of all, I understand all situations. The reason that they skipped it from January to June was in the first place to help the European clubs, because you have to think about 300 to 400 African players playing in Europe, their football. So with every national team game, they have to travel. Africa is also a huge continent. Asia is also huge. Europe is very small, so long traveling, but the weather situation in Cameroon is not good to play in June. So then they skipped it back to January, and now they changed it to 1 year later on. The situation of the clubs is clear. They don't like to release their players in the middle of the season. On the other side, in January, several leagues are still off. And I think we have to respect always a national team. Doesn't matter if it's Gambia, if it's Nepal, if it's Argentina or Belgium. Doesn't matter which national team. A national team is always the highest a player can achieve, can reach. And clubs have to respect national teams. So if a player can represent his country in an international tournament, clubs have to release their players. I think it's now also the postponement of the tournament has also been influenced by the European clubs in the way that because of COVID-19, a lot of leagues are pushed forward. It will take maybe till September, October before everyone starts playing. There will be a lot of league matches. European Championship will be played in June, July next year, 2021. So I think the African teams, countries didn't want to put more pressure on the European leagues, and therefore they postpone it for 1 year. So I understand a club who play a player who wants a player to perform. My team has currently around 80 players. Gambia has around 80 players playing in Europe, and as I mentioned, we have players two in Bologna, Atalanta, Bergamo, Sampdoria, even AS Roma, a young player, Anderlecht, two in Zurich, Granada, in Norway, Sweden, everywhere. So, but on the other side, there are also leagues who are played in the summer. Think about the Ireland, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland. These leagues are played in the summer. So if you move a tournament to the summer, these leagues have the consequences. So it's a little bit the power of the big nations in Europe, Italy, France, Germany, England, and Spain, who decide a lot. I know there's always a complaint now also about the World Cup 2022 to be played in Qatar in October, November. But people forget every World Cup who is played in July has consequences for other countries. Think about Japan, who has a season going on from February till October. So you never can be perfect for every part of the world. We have different circumstances, different systems of when to play football, and there will be always countries who has to skip their league. And I think everyone has to be cooperative, and we have to understand that a World Cup, African Championship, European Championship, Asian Cup, that's very important for the nations. We have to respect the countries, and clubs have to support the federations.
The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hola, very warm welcome to the VAR Show, the show which talks about all the various major leagues in detail. Today we are going to continue the theme of interviews, and we have the head coach of Gambia national team, Mr. Tom Saintfiet, with us. So, Tom has had an illustrious career managing a lot of different countries. He has managed around 10 national teams and also a host of other clubs too. So without wasting much time, I would like to first thank Tom for coming on the show. Thank you and welcome to the show. And on that note, I would like to begin by asking you, how are you and what are you doing these days?
Hello, welcome. I'm doing fine. I'm at the moment in Belgium because of COVID-19. We are all struggling with it, and it's not possible to not travel to Gambia, not travel to visit players. So I'm at home with the family. We are doing fine, but naturally I miss football, like most of us. We miss football in these difficult times.
Definitely, and I hope everything becomes all right soon. But now I'll move on to a topic which is more lighter, that is football in comparison to what's happening. And we are currently the head coach of Gambia. How is it there?
In Gambia, in 2018, I decided to become national team coach of Gambia. For me, I knew Gambia for a long period of time. I played against them in 2010. I worked with several players in Europe of Gambian descent. So I knew this is a good football country. But when I arrived, they didn't win a game for 5 years. They never won a competitive game in history before I arrived, and they were only 172 in the world. When I came there, I came in a football-loving country. You have to know that Gambia is the smallest African country on the African mainland. So it's smaller than Lesotho, it's smaller than Eswatini. It's a very small country. Only also 2 million inhabitants, but a lot of football players, good football players. And since my start, we got very good results. Very good achievements. We drew twice with Algeria. We beat Morocco last World Cup. We beat them in Marrakesh in Morocco. We won in Angola the first ever competitive away match. So several wins, several draws, and I have fantastic players who play in Europe for Bologna, for Sampdoria, for Atalanta Bergamo, for Zurich, for Hajduk Split. So a lot of good players. 17 boys made their debut since my arrival. So we are building a good team, and we are leading our qualification group ahead of Gabon with Aubameyang at currently 183 in the world. Congo DRC 54 in the world, also a strong football nation, and Angola 120. Except naturally that now also COVID-19 has struck on Africa and Gambia, and that we are not able to plan ahead. The tournament African Championship is postponed. Normally it was played in January 2021. Now it's postponed to January 2022, and we have to play still 4 qualification games, and we don't know when we will play. So it's a difficult time for all, and for sure for everyone who loves football. So I'm now looking ahead what hopefully the situation, the health situation changes soon.
Definitely, and like I'll touch on a topic that you just mentioned, and this was like probably not in my question list, but since you touched on it, I would like to touch on it. You spoke of the African Cup of Nations, and in between it was shifted from January to summer, and now again it shifted back. Even when it shifted back to winter, since you said you have a lot of players playing in Europe, the clubs are very skeptical of releasing them. What is your viewpoint? Should it be come on?
First of all, I understand all situations. The reason that they skipped it from January to June was in the first place to help the European clubs, because you have to think about 300 to 400 African players playing in Europe their football. So with every national team game, they have to travel. Africa is also a huge continent. Asia is also huge. Europe is very small, so long traveling, but the weather situation in Cameroon is not good to play in June. So then they skipped it back to January, and now they changed it to 1 year later on. The situation of the clubs is clear. They don't like to release their players in the middle of the season. On the other side, in January, several leagues are still off. And I think we have to respect always a national team. Doesn't matter if it's Gambia, if it's Nepal, if it's Argentina or Belgium. Doesn't matter which national team. A national team is always the highest a player can achieve, can reach. And clubs have to respect national teams. So if a player can represent his country in an international tournament, clubs have to release their players. I think it's now also the postponement of the tournament has also been influenced by the European clubs in the way that because of COVID-19, a lot of leagues are pushed forward. It will take maybe till September, October before everyone starts playing. There will be a lot of league matches. European Championship will be played in June, July next year, 2021. So I think the African teams, countries didn't want to put more pressure on the European leagues, and therefore they postpone it for 1 year. So I understand a club who play a player who want this player to perform. My team has currently around 80 players. Gambia has around 80 players playing in Europe, and as I mentioned, we have players two in Bologna, Atalanta Bergamo, Sampdoria, even AS Roma, a young player. Anderlecht, 2 in Zurich, Granada, in Norway, Sweden, everywhere. So, but on the other side, there are also leagues who are played in the summer. Think about the Ireland, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland. These leagues are played in the summer. So if you move a tournament to the summer, these leagues have the consequences. So it's a little bit the power of the big nations in Europe, Italy, France, Germany, England and Spain, who decide a lot. I know there's always a complaint now also about the World Cup 2022 to be played in Qatar in October, November. But people forget every World Cup who is played in July has consequences for other countries. Think about Japan, who has a season going on from February till October. So you never can be perfect for every part of the world. We have different circumstances, different systems of when to play football, and there will be always countries who has to skip their league. And I think everyone has to be cooperative, and we have to understand that a World Cup, African Championship, European Championship, Asian Cup, that's very important for the nations. We have to respect the countries, and clubs have to support the federations.
Definitely. And moving on from that, like you have managed a lot of teams, especially the national teams, and in terms of quality, where does Gambia rank? Like in terms of the quality, even if you talk about the infrastructure that is available, where does Gambia rank in the countries that you have managed?
Yeah, to be honest, I loved working in every country I worked. I have good experiences everywhere, and every country has their own culture, their own habits, and their own qualities and their own beauties. It's clear that when you work in Europe, I was national team coach of Malta. The infrastructure is top. The surroundings, the hotels, the stadium, training grounds is world class. The same happened. I worked in Qatar with under 17 national team. Previous there you have also top surroundings. When you work in countries in Asia, in Africa, sometimes the infrastructure is not the same level as in Europe, but the quality of players is fantastic. At the moment, I think Gambia is a very unknown country for many people. When I speak with a lot of people, they say, "Oh, you coach Gambia, which is your best local based player?" And then I tell you, "Hey, all my players play abroad, even Boa Vista and so many Reading in England." So people are surprised that Gambia has so many good players. So I rate Gambia very high currently. But in the past, I worked with Togo, what is also a major football country where I had the most famous name for the world is Sheyi Adebayor. Who I worked with, and probably he is the best player I ever coached. But in every country you have your pros and cons. At the moment in Gambia, I have to say I'm very well supported by the federation. I have a good coaching staff, good medical team. The board of federation assists very good in traveling, in hotels, because it are these details who are very important. It's not always the best players, it's not always the best training ground or the best stadium what counts. It's a mix of a lot of things. You need good players, you need good infrastructure, but you need also good flights, that you are not too much fatigued to play games. You need good hotels, good food, a good technical team with analysts, with physical coach, with goalkeeper coaches who are qualified and who are quality people, and all these details are very important to achieve. But like I said, in Malta, the quality of players was maybe not so good, but the infrastructure was good. In Togo, Gambia, the quality of players is very good. And Trinidad and Tobago had also good infrastructure. Quality of players was okay. But I loved also working in Ethiopia. I loved working in Yemen, where I was supported by the federation with very motivated players, very disciplined players, where the board also did a lot. Bangladesh was a different experiences. I was a very short period there and made some wrong decisions because of the short lack of time. As a coach, it's much easier if you have more time to adapt to a nation and to understand. But in every country I worked, I enjoyed working. I have positive experiences. But if you say which team is the best, I think at the moment my Gambian team can achieve the most. For the outside world, probably Togo or Trinidad and Tobago were the best. But I believe this Gambian team is just starting. But in the next years, I see Gambia being able to qualify even for the 2026 World Cup in Mexico, Canada, and United States. They have so many young players, so much potential. I think for the future, Gambia will be the best.
Definitely, and I hope so. They qualify under your leadership. And I wanted to ask you, like you said, that a lot of players play outside in Europe, maybe be it in Italy or England or any other league. But the basic backbone of a national team comes from the home league. So your
Yeah.
home league needs to be strong. How is the Gambian league?
The Gambian league is not bad, but you can't say it's very professional. Gambia is not a rich country. People earn around $50 a month. Also, football players in the local league earn like that. And you will see that a lot of scouts from Europe, from all over the world, come to Gambia to find talented players. So if you are a very good player in Gambia, if you are 16, 17, 18 years old, you are picked away by a European team. Atalanta Bergamo, they took 5 years ago about 5 Gambian players to their development. Chievo Verona did the same. So all over Europe, there are a lot of young Gambians, 16, 17, 18 years old, who are developing. But the Gambian league, it's not as professional as other African leagues. When you look really to the professional leagues in Africa, you think about Egypt, you think about Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, but also Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, and also South Africa. That are the real professional leagues where local league football is very big. But if you see Gambian teams performing in Champions League or in Confederations Cup, in African club football like Europa League or Champions League in Europe, then they get good results against big teams, but they never qualify. They draw against teams from Morocco, they draw against teams from Algeria, but on the end they will be kicked out in the first or second round. So there's a lot of young talent. I think the clubs and the academies develop a lot of good players, and there's a lot of potential. The only thing is, because of the little money, a player, if he gets an offer from another league, he will leave very soon Gambia. A lot of players go to Senegal. Gambia is surrounded by Senegal, and Senegal is a more professional league. In Senegal, a player earns maybe $300-400, but that's almost 10 times as much as in Gambia. Other players will go to Tunisia, will go to Morocco, and then the next step is going to Europe. So Gambia has a lot of talent. They have a decent league, but the lack of funds make it very difficult to keep the good players. But in the past, I worked in countries like Namibia, like Malawi, like Ethiopia, like Yemen, where all the players play almost in the local league. And that's naturally different. Then it has its pros and contrasts. If you work with a national team, I worked in Ethiopia with a national team where all the players play in the Ethiopian league, but you have more time to work with the players. You can have more camps, you can observe the players, you can go every day to the stadium to watch your team playing, your players playing, and you can bring them sooner together. You don't have to fly them in from different nations, so it costs less money. And in Ethiopia, for instance, I was 10 days in Ethiopia, and after 10 days we drew with Nigeria. And Nigeria had John Oba Mikel, Taiwo, Yobo, Musa, so all the big names. And Ethiopia had only local-based players. Same happened with Namibia. Same happened we played with Yemen against Saudi Arabia. We lost 1-0, but the difference is normally much bigger. We played Iran with Carlos Queiroz. We lost only 2-1 in the West Asian Football Federation Championship. We had only local-based players. So it has its pros and contrasts. Now in Gambia and like also in Togo, players have to fly in. If we have a game on Thursday, they will only fly on Monday, because on Sunday they play still with Sampdoria, or they play still with their club in Europe, sometimes in Norway, very far. They fly in on Monday. The earliest I can train is most of the time Tuesday afternoon, and then Wednesday one training and Thursday is match. So it's not always easy to prepare. But at the moment, I can't complain, because we have a good team, we have a strong squad. Players know what they can expect from me. And the first year I lived full-time in Gambia. I did a lot of scouting in the country. I worked a lot with local-based players. After that, I decided to be more in Europe. and I traveled the last 12 months. I was in Germany, I was in Norway, I was in Sweden, I was in Malta, I was in Italy a few times, in Switzerland, Spain, France, to observe my players and to see what they do. So both things has an advantage. If you have professional players in Europe, probably the quality of the individual player is higher, but you have less time to make a team. If you have a lot of local-based players, they are more motivated, and you can work more close together to teach them a lot.
Definitely, and I wanted to ask you this, that you said that there is not much funds available for the local league because there are not much money. Then how is that Gambia as a nation is producing so many talents like which they are playing abroad? Like how are the talents coming out?
Yeah, it's naturally the physical structure of a player. If you cut the world in pieces, you can see some countries, they always develop good players. Think about Nigeria, think about Ghana, because they are athletic, they are very strong in football. The same is for Senegal, the same is also for Gambia. Gambian people are very athletic, very physically strong, and they love football. If you walk in Gambia on the street, if you walk on the beach, it's a beautiful country, it's a very tourist country. In Gambia, a lot of tourists come from Holland, from Sweden, from Germany, from England. Everyday flights come. So it's a very touristical country, but people love football. There's only one sport, and that's football. So everyone plays football. So kids get very soon in contact with the game. They get the opportunity to play a lot of football, and there are some good academies, some good local coaches, some good foreign youth coaches who already work there, and they develop the quality. But like I said, it's also inherited. It's also in the genes. It's not only luck, or it's not only because they are good coaches. Gambia, the physical structure of Gambian players is very strong. Even long ago, in the 70s, there was a player, he sadly enough passed away a few days ago, Biri. He played for Sevilla 4 years. In the 70s, he was the first African player to play in Sevilla, and one of the first in La Liga. He was the first African player in Denmark. And even later in the 80s, in the 90s, there were Gambian players playing for Belgium clubs, Racing Genk, Anderlecht, for the quite big clubs, and they were important players. So they were always good players. The only difference now is that we have a lot of good players. It has to do that the change of federation, we develop a lot of good players. Players get more infrastructure, better quality coaches, and a lot of Gambian players are also born already in Europe through the immigration. Their parents came to Europe, they are born in Europe, and they are developed in Europe. So there are different now type of Gambians. I have Gambians who are totally developed in Italy, Gambians who are totally developed in Norway, but who are Gambian. I have Gambians who are born in Gambia and developed in Gambia. So it's a mix of these things. And I think this mix make the team much stronger. And I expect that the future for Gambian football will be even more bright, because if you have good players, it motivates kids to become also a good player. If you have good examples in your national team, if you have players playing on top leagues in Europe, kids will see it on television and they want to be the same like that. So I think Gambia has a bright future, also because more and more infrastructure is built. Clubs are getting better training accommodation. European clubs are investing more and more in Gambian football, and more scouts are coming. So it's a mix of things. It's the inherited, the genes of the region, the typical athletic West African player combined with the typical quality of Gambia, and now the mix of people who are immigrated to Europe on an early stage and who are developed also there.
Definitely, and I'll move from Gambia and move to your career. I think this is your 10th national team. Are you trying to set a world record?
No, that was never an ambition, to be honest. The world record is, I think, 19 with Rudi Gutendorf, and there
So that is in the back of your head.
I know it, but and Otto Pfister has 12 or 13, and Leroy has 11 or something. So I think I'm number 4 or something on that list. I checked it once, but that's not really my ambition. It's so that many times, and probably you know it also, many Asian countries, many African countries have limited budget, and appointed sometimes a coach for a short period of time. When I was in Bangladesh, coach, I had only a contract for 3 months. After that, There was for 10 months no coach. No one came after me for 10 months because there were no games, so they didn't want to spend money on a coach. The same happened. I signed a 3-month contract with Malawi. I signed a 5-month contract with Ethiopia. So what makes it that in a short period of time I could coach more teams? It was never the intention. If Ethiopia had the budget to extend a long-term contract, or Bangladesh had the budget to extend a long-term contract, but there was no budget available, there were no games, so that reason made it that I coached many teams. I'm very happy with it because it helped me to gain motivation and of experience. I'm not anymore the coach. In 2008 I started as national team coach with Namibia. I was there 2.5 years, then I left to Zimbabwe. I changed, I developed myself, I became a stronger coach, I became a better coach. So every experience helps you to become better. You can learn. And I also learn from the local coaches. I always loved to work in Bangladesh, in Gambia, in Ethiopia, in Yemen. I work always with local people because for me it's very important to understand the culture, to learn the language, but also to learn from the habits, because you can't say this is the way of coaching all over the world. Every country, every continent, every place demands a different approach. And so I learned, I developed, and I'm very happy with that. I have no ambition to get a world record in it. My main ambition as a coach is to go to the big tournaments. And my main dream is to go once to a World Cup. So that's the real reason I'm a national team coach. I want to go as national team coach once to a World Cup on senior level, and hopefully it can happen in the future.
Definitely. And you said that you manage so many places, you have learned a lot, and you have developed as a person and as a manager from your first national team till now. So which job has been the most challenging for you? Which project was the most challenging?
Yeah, to be honest, every job. Only there are maybe 2 jobs, 3 jobs. I'm not really satisfied of it. The first one was Malawi, where I came really for one game, and we played. There was the game against Nigeria. If we won in Nigeria, Malawi would go to the World Cup. But okay, that was a very difficult mission. But in the preparation to that game, I used the friendly matches and COSAFA Cup only for that one game. Maybe now with my experience, I would have approached it different. The same happened with a little bit with Bangladesh. When I arrived in Bangladesh, I had only the game against Bhutan ahead. There were a lot of problems never having the teams together. A lot of players who were occupied with club teams. Some players had to play with army team when I had friendly games. So there were a lot of things what didn't work really out. And I made by myself some mistakes in these decisions. And in Trinidad and Tobago, I went there with the idea I would come in a big football nation. We had to play on the non-FIFA dates qualification. I selected 30 players, and on the end, I had almost no one from my selection there because they played in Europe. They were not invited. They didn't come. And I had to play not with the national team, not with the second national team, but only with the third national team. And it was a frustration. And in Trinidad, I even left after 35 days by myself. I had a contract, what was going on, but I couldn't work like that. So for me, these were the biggest frustrations. And I learned a lot out of that. Some partly I made a mistake in my own decisions. Some were the circumstances. Most enjoyable were naturally Namibia, my first national team, where we climbed more than 30 positions on the FIFA ranking. Namibia lost 11 from 12 games before I arrived. And when I was there, we started winning a lot of games, even playing against big opponents with good results. Ethiopia, it happened the same results. Ethiopia lost a lot of games before my arrival, and I changed fortunes. In Togo, I worked with great players, and we got very good results. And now, naturally, in Gambia, it was a losing team when I arrived, and now we are very competitive. We are leading our group. So these are different approaches. I can't say challenging because every job is challenging. When you start somewhere, you have to start from scratch. You have to understand the local culture, the people. You have to understand the history of football of the country. You have to understand the history of the country. So every job is, again, challenging, and sometimes it works out. Sometimes you take the right decisions, and sometimes you take wrong decisions as coach. But the only thing is, it's very important to learn out of it and try not to make the same mistakes in the future.
Definitely. And like you have managed at club level too, and I think it was quite a while back that you managed at club level. So what is the major difference in your opinion in managing a club and a country, and which one do you personally prefer?
Yeah, I coached several clubs in Europe. I worked in Holland with FC Emmen. I was also technical director there. I'm the one who discovered Bas Dost 3 years ago, top scorer of the world behind Lionel Messi. Played that time for Sporting Lisbon, scored 37 goals. Now Eintracht Frankfurt. When he was 17 years old, I coached him. I brought him his first professional contract. I worked in Finland in professional football, Germany. In professional football in Belgium in 2015 was my last job, team guiding to promotion playoffs. I worked in Tanzania, where I won the Champions League from East and Central Africa as club coach. In Jordan, I worked with Shabab Al-Ordon, guiding to the second spot, never lost a game there. In Qatar with Al-Gharafa, at that time Al-Ittihad. So a lot of club experience, and I enjoyed working with clubs. But for me, the honor to coach a national team is the pride. It's bigger. National team, I always say, if you coach a club, you have a lot of supporters. But if you have a national team, the whole country supports for you. If you coach Gambia, there are 2 million people who will support for you. If you coach Ethiopia, there are 80 million people who will support for you. So the impact of a national team is bigger. And to work for a player, the highest you can achieve is to play for your country. For me, as national team as coach, the highest you can achieve is working for a national team. I'm always very honored to represent as coach a nation, to hear that national anthem and to play competitive games for a country. For me, that's the biggest honor. But when I'm national team coach, sometimes I miss the daily work of a club coach, because as a club coach, you have every week a game, you have everyday training, you work with your players, you have more impact on your trainers. As a club coach, you can influence players technically, physically, tactically, and mentally, and you can work from week to week. As a national team coach, you have no influence physically, you have no influence technically, because I have them only 2-3 days with me. But I have only influence tactically to take the right choices, to make the right system. And I have also influence mentally to create a good group. So it's a different approach, different work. I like both jobs, but I feel very honored to be national team coach. And like I said, my big ambition, my big dream is to go to a World Cup. And then I have to coach national teams, because as a club coach, it's almost impossible, and it's not so interesting on that level. But maybe in the future, there will be a moment that I coach again clubs. But at the moment, I enjoy very much coaching national teams.
Definitely. And I'll move to more tactical side. And if you had to describe your footballing philosophy as to how you see football, how would you describe it?
I have to say, my philosophy is always based on the quality of my players compared to the quality of the opponent. I know there are a lot of players. The modern philosophy of everyone is, oh, we have to play like Guardiola, we have to play tiki-taka, we have to play offensive football, we have to play like Manchester City. For me, it's quite strange that people talk like that, because in the whole world are only 2-3 teams who can play like that and be successful. Every team can play tiki-taka. Every team in Nepal can play tiki-taka. Every team in China can play tiki-taka. The only difference is, do you win? And for me, as a coach, winning is the most important. That's the basic. If I'm a football coach, if I'm a football player, I want to win every match. That's the start of every game. So then you have to see, what is the quality of your players? Or is my quality good, but is the opponent better? I will not win with attacking tiki-taka football. I have to find a new system, a new tactic. So every coach must have a philosophy what is based on the quality of his players compared to the quality of the opponent. And for me, if you come somewhere, if I build a house, I don't make the painting, I don't put the TV, I don't put the nice walls on, decoration on the wall. No, I start with the fundament, the concrete. And the fundament, the concrete of a football team is a good organization, a good defense. So for me, it's very important that when you start with a team, if it's a club team, a national team, that you first build a good organization, that players know what to do when they lose the ball, what is the organization, where to defend, where are the distance from each other, and then also naturally know what to do when you have the ball, when to attack and how to attack. But a lot of coaches, they get jobs because they talk, I'm going to play attacking football with 3 strikers, and then they lose every match. So I think we have to be realistic. If I coach tomorrow Barcelona, if I coach tomorrow Real Madrid, I can play different football than when I coach tomorrow a small team in Pakistan. I mean, that's the reality. Don't forget that Guardiola, today it's clear he doesn't achieve what he wants to achieve. He won in Barcelona because the team was created for many years in the youth development, and the philosophy was from Johan Cruyff for so many years. He went to Bayern Munich. He became only champion. Jupp Heynckes won the Champions League champion and the cup without tiki-taka. He didn't win the Champions League. Now Manchester City, he didn't win the championship. He didn't win the Champions League yet. So for me as a coach, the way of playing is secondary. Winning is priority. And if we can win with nice football, very good. If we have to win with not so nice football, also good. If I'm tomorrow coaching a country who didn't win for 5 years, it will be suicidal to say, let's go attack. Because 5 years it didn't happen to win like that. So you have to find, as a good coach, you have to analyze your team. You have to see where the qualities are, where the weaknesses are. You have to analyze your opponents or your possible opponents and try to create a system for it. But you need alternatives. You have plan A, you have plan B, you have plan C. Because you sometimes concede a goal when you don't expect it, and then you need an answer on it. So you have to train all the plans. You have alternatives and options. And it depends on the quality of the players. But the basic of everything for me is a good foundation, a strong structure in your philosophy of a team. And if you don't concede a goal, you need to score one goal to win. If you concede 5 goals every game, you need to score 6 to win. So, and I want to win.
Definitely, and that's how maybe you will reach the World Cup. You have to win to reach.
Hopefully, hopefully, I hope so. That's the big aim.
So moving on from that, do you have any colleagues of yours who are managing all across the world, whose work you admire?
Long ago, and then I talk about the 90s, it was Philippe Trousier. Maybe you remember him. He coached in Africa, Nigeria, South Africa, Morocco, Burkina Faso. He coached Ivory Coast, and later he was in 2002 the coach of Japan on the World Cup. In 1998, he was the coach of Nigeria, of South Africa on the World Cup. Sorry. So he was in the beginning of my career an example as a coach of working with national teams all over the world. Currently, I don't have example coaches or coaches I admire. I follow a lot of coaches. I respect all colleagues and I respect everyone with good philosophy. I think the work for the last 15 years of Mourinho was very impressive. Now, currently, it's not anymore what it was. The work of Jurgen Klopp currently is amazing. What he did with Mainz, what he did with Dortmund, and what he does now with Liverpool. So there are a lot of good international coaches, but even the work of a local coach in a local league in a smaller country can be fantastic, because people sometimes admire the coaches they know from television, they see every game, but they forget that maybe in their local league, what is not so much on television, where not so many people go, there can be a coach with the same quality as Jurgen Klopp of Mourinho or Guardiola. So sometimes coaches are lucky to work in the big leagues with the big money, because I always say if any coach can spend 160 billion like Guardiola can do in Manchester City, the chance is big that you become champion. The chance is big that you win the Champions League. But if a coach has to work with local players without budget, then you can see if a coach is a good coach. I mean, put Guardiola tomorrow in the Nepal national team and see what he can do with that. That's for me always the thing. Put the best Nepali coach in Barcelona and probably he become champion. So you need the players, you need the surrounding. A good coach can also get good results with weaker teams. And that's for me very important. I respect coaches all over the world who achieve that on club level, on local level. I'm not so. I respect the big coaches also, but not only the big coaches. There are a lot of local coaches in Gambia, local coaches all over the world who do a great job.
Definitely. And moving on from that, and you have had a very illustrious career, as a coach till now. And if you had to choose one moment that has been the most proudest for you till now, which moment will that be?
Ooh, that's difficult to say. Very difficult, very difficult, because as a coach you work from one proud moment to a disappointment, to a proud moment to a disappointment. It changes all the time. Naturally, the first time becoming national team coach was very special. When I was 35 years old, when the Namibian Football Federation appointed me as national team coach, I was dreaming of the job for many years, but never got the opportunity. So that moment was for me very special. But winning the Champions League with young Africans, the Champions League from East and Central Africa, was a big moment. Working with Qatar U17 and qualifying for the World Cup in 2005 was a big moment. But every win, and not always a win. I worked with Yemen in the Gulf Cup. Yemen, a local-based team. In previous years, they lost 5 to 7-0 from Saudi Arabia. We meet Frank Rijkaard in the Gulf Cup. We lost that game 2-0, but after 17 minutes we hit the crossbar. We didn't win, we didn't draw, but I was very proud of the performance of my players. So it doesn't have to be always result related. I love working with staff, with players, with local people, and I can be proud of a lot of things. So I can't say this is the big moment of my career. The big moment of my career will come when I qualify for the World Cup.
Definitely, and I hope so. That is soon. And since you've had so much experience in all across the world, and if you had to give a piece of advice to a young coach, what advice would you give that coach?
Yeah, a lot of coaches contact me, sometimes young, sometimes older, sometimes even bigger names contact me, and they say, hey, I have no job, I would like to find a job, I would like to have the career like you. There are a few important things to what you have to do. First of all, you have to have the dream and the ambition to achieve something, but only that is not enough. You have to work for it. When I was 23, I stopped playing football. I started my coaching license. When I was 25, when I was 24, I had my UEFA B license. When I was 26, I had my UEFA A license. Now I have UEFA Pro license. I studied in Holland for physical coaching degree. I have physical coaching degree, football coaching 1, 2, and 3 in Holland. I did skill development coaching degree, Curver method. I am a bachelor in sport and business psychology. So I studied a lot. I was a football player, professional, semi-professional in Belgium and in Scandinavia. But I wanted to achieve something as a coach. First thing I did was a lot of learning, a lot of study. I started as a head coach at 24. I was the youngest ever head coach of a club team in Belgium. I was 24 years old. Some of my players were 35, and I was the coach with 24. So you have to invest in yourself. And very important in that is you have the aim, the ambition, the motivation. You need to study and always develop. Even now, I have all the degrees. I have my pro license, I have everything, but I study. I try to analyze. I look to colleagues. I try to learn every day more and more. Big colleagues, small colleagues, I try to learn from everyone. And I try to learn from my mistakes. And the most important is that money may never be your motivation. Too many coaches start career, and the first thing is how much I can earn, how much I can earn. And if that's the motivation, you will lose a lot of opportunities to get the experience to become a good coach. For me, money was never the motivation. I worked sometimes for very small money only because I loved to work with that team or with these players to achieve something. For me, I'm a football passionate person. Football is my passion, my love. and money was always secondary. The quality to work with a team in a country, with a club, is always the main motivation. Money can never be the priority. And that's a mistake many coaches make. They want to have a job, and the first thing they want to discuss is the money part. And the money is secondary. Most important is, how can I work? How can I develop my team? How can I work with the local people together, with everyone? And you need to be determination. Sometimes you will fail. Sometimes you will be frustrated. Sometimes you will not agree with a decision of one of your board members. It's very difficult sometimes, but you need to be very disciplined, very diplomatic, and you make mistakes, but you will learn. You have to learn from it.
Definitely, and that's I hope that's very useful for anyone listening, young coaches listening. And on that note, Tom, I'll ask you one final question, okay? And this is quite controversial, okay? Whom would you prefer, Lionel Messi or Ronaldo?
Oh, I'm. To be honest, I'm not. Both are fantastic players, and for me, it's. I'm not so Messi, Ronaldo type. I give you one return thing in it. As national team coach, you have to vote for the best player in the world for many years. And in the beginning, when I was national team coach of Namibia, I got a list, and that time I chose Gattuso as the best player in the world. And everyone said I was crazy, because everyone was voting for Zidane or the other Ronaldo or all the other big, Pirlo or these guys. For me, Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo are brilliant players, but they can only perform because they have a team around them, because they have players like Gattuso around them, players who work for them, players who recover the ball and give the ball. So you don't win games because of Messi or Ronaldo. You win games because of the team performance. And Messi is a brilliant player. Ronaldo is very successful. Ronaldo became European champion. I will say I will choose later on for one who is first world champion of them, because both of them didn't achieve that yet. So let's see. We talk always about Messi. I come from the time from Maradona, who became world champion with Argentina. It would be nice that Messi can do something with Argentina, can achieve something, can lift Argentina to that level. Ronaldo won the European Championship with Portugal. Now on the World Championship in 2022, we want to see something. So I really cannot answer. I have no favorite. I don't think any of them. They are both brilliant. They have different qualities. But again, they can perform because of the people around them giving the opportunity. If they have to recover the ball and do all the work, it will be much more difficult. So in a team, you have leaders, you have people who score the goals, you have people who make the dribbles, but you need also people who recover the ball, who make the tackle, and who make the running. And for me, my best players are these players who work for the team and not the heroes who score the goals.
Definitely. Okay, I'll ask you a better or a more tough one. Whom do you prefer, Kante or Gattuso?
Who?
N'Golo
What's the first one?
N'Golo Kante or Gattuso?
Very difficult question, because both are fantastic. I have Kante, world champion, but I loved Gattuso also because of his passion, the Italian fire, the passion. So I would go for Gattuso.
Okay, surely. Then okay, I'll let that one go. And on that note, Tom, thank you so much for talking to me, and I wish you all the best for your future. Hope you can take them to the World Cup and maybe achieve the highest ever position that Gambia has ever reached, in world stage. And probably, I think so it will be a dream, but okay, I'll even say that hope you can win the World Cup with Gambia. You never know, like it's a
Yeah, thank you very much. Sadly enough, we are out of the qualification for the 2022 World Cup. It's very strange in Africa. So our first World Cup we can qualify is 2026. So it's still a long way to go. But there are so many good Gambian players, so much talent. So keep an eye on Gambia, follow the players, and it would be great. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and you're always welcome.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.